What's up, you guys? Welcome to the 08 Magazine. That's me. I'm your host, Omari Abbasi, and it's Sunday and almost the end of November. I cannot believe that it is almost Christmas. This year has flown. I literally have been in Portland for a year now, so happy anniversary to me. And happy anniversary to you if you're just now tuning in and you remember me coming to Portland and talking about how amazing it was. It's been an awesome weekend. I had my very first roommate, who I lived with when I very first moved here. He stayed over, and we ended up having an amazing chat, just catching up and talking about all of the stuff that has been going on since I moved here, and since he's moved here. It's just been an awesome catch-up time. And yeah, it's been a year. I can't believe it. So much has happened. And welcome to the show. So if you're not familiar with what I do, is I don't really do shit. I have a podcast. It's one of those things where you just go, you know what, I've always wanted one, so I have one, and here I am, and I'm doing what I do, which is talk shit. So let's get started, man. Let's get started. So today I came up with this title, "You're Dumb, Stop Talking to Me," and it's because it was fresh on my mind. So last night I go to the Eagle, and again, I'm not a bar person or a club. I mean, I love clubs. I love going to good clubs where there's good dance music and people are actually partying, and I haven't had that in ages, but I do try to look for it. I always try to find it. But I go to the Eagle because they have an underwear night, and it's always interesting to see who comes out, who shows up and tries to, taunt and tease in their underwear. They start off in a jock and then they end up being naked and suck a dick in a corner or something crazy. So, but I always like to go, and the DJ Anorexic, who is probably like 1,700 pounds, and he's just the most amazing DJ. He spins some really, really good music. So I go really to hear him play and do his thing, and it was great. So I've been having an amazing week. So, I really, some shit at work was going down, and that's pretty natural for me. Shit at work is always going down. But I was like, I forced myself to go out and have a good time, and I start, I'm in this new thing where I do not let people ruin my good time. It's just not going to happen. Like, too many awesome things are happening for me to allow people to interfere with, me actually enjoying living here and succeeding and moving and got my own place and doing all these things. And I'm like, nah, you know what? Had a bad day at work. I'm going to go out and enjoy myself. So I went out on Thursday, and I also went out on Saturday. So I know when I go out, I'm not one of these people. I don't talk to many people. I just, and I know we've talked about this before because I talk nothing but about me, but I'm not this guy who, I'm not very social. I'm pretty much not going to talk to anybody who's out there. I'm not going to go up to you and say anything. I'm not going to, hold conversation with you. I'm just not, because number one, I'm not trying to meet anyone. And number two, people just aren't into me, and that's okay. Like, it's one of those things where, I've had a few boyfriends or whatever in my entire life, but they weren't, I loved them way more than they loved me, but that was because of the self-esteem stuff, but they weren't, like, people aren't attracted to me on the whole. Like, I'm not that, I'm kind of ugly, so, and I've accepted that about myself, and so when I go out, I don't go looking for anybody to talk to me or wherever, because it's just, I'm okay with it, I'm used to it. So last night, I'm enjoying myself, and the DJ Anorexic, who's about 1,700 pounds, was just spinning his fat ass off. He was giving us life last night. He was just giving it to us all last night. And I'm having an awesome time by myself, because I'm in my own zone. I'm completely in my own zone. I'm not asking anybody to to like buy me a drink. It's not me. Like, I'm there to listen to the music and sing along quietly. You know, I'm not gonna be shouting at the top of my lungs, singing and trying to let everybody let people know I know how to hold the tune. It's not that. I just love hearing what he puts together, and I'm enjoying it. And so this dude comes in, you know, a white dude with some swagger, and I've noticed him right off, and he's like grooving to the music, and he's good. You can tell he's a house head, and I'm just like, okay, look at him. I see him, you know, and he obviously sees me and makes his way over. And I'm like, okay, that wasn't even smooth because it was predictable. I saw you coming a mile away, which is fine, you know, because it's not many people of color here. So it's not like I was in a room full of people of color. So if you're into men of color, obviously I'm the person, right? I get it. Like, I mean, I'm not dumb. So, and you could tell he had swagger, so he was definitely making a beeline to try to get over at me, and that's fine. Like, I'm okay with it. Like, I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not hating on it. I'm not gonna respond to it, but I'm like, I get it. So he comes over, sits down, you know, strikes up some foul surface conversation, and I'm playing along because I'm just like, yeah, you know, whatever. I'm not gonna be mean, but I wish he would shut up because this is a good song. But again, not going to be mean. I'm going to listen. So he's like, so do you always come here? And I'm like, oh my God, do people really still ask that? Like, that is such a lame ass question. And I'm like, well, you know what? I do. I come here enough. He's like, well, did you know it was underwear night? Because I didn't know. And I'm like, no. I mean, yeah. I'm sorry. I said, yeah. I obviously I know it's underwear night because this is the night that I come on. And he was like, oh, wow, yeah, no, I wasn't expecting this. And I'm like, it's just dudes in their underwear and jocks, dude. It's not that big of a deal. Like, you know, even if it weren't underwear at night, this is very typical for this place. And he's like, oh, wow, yeah, this is crazy. He's like, so if you knew it was underwear night, why aren't you in your underwear? And I was like, because I come to listen to the music. And I sit right next to the DJ, which is I was sitting right next to him. And I was like, and I listen to his music, and I appreciate what he does, and this is what I do. And he was like, okay, fair enough. And he was like, well, you know, I'm just saying, I think you would look good if you did. And I was like, thank you. I was like, but that it's not my thing. You know, I'm past that, but thank you. And he's like, well, you know, I'm just saying. So it's so sad because he's so predictable. Like, everything he's saying is just so predictable. And it's like, son, just get to the point. You know, just talk to me for real. Like, these parables you're using is just not working for me. And so I'm just kind of like annoyed. And I'm looking straight ahead at this point because I'm just like, I don't want to be bothered. I'm loving the music. So he says, so where are you from? And I'm like, and I'm really annoyed because I'm like, I live in Portland, so why can't I be from Portland? You know, but I you know, I play along. I'm like, well, I moved here from Chicago, but obviously I'm not from Chicago. I'm from a few different places, but I didn't say that. I just said, hey, I moved here from Chicago. He's like, oh yeah, where do you think I'm from? And I'm like, I don't really do the guessing thing. It's just easier for you to just tell me, because I don't know. I truly don't know. And he's like, no, come on, just guess. And I was like, I don't know, New Jersey. He's like, oh, close. I'm from Detroit. I'm sorry, it's not close. Detroit is the Midwest. New York, New Jersey is the East Coast. But this is what happens when you play with people who want to play guessing games. This is what they do. And so I'm like, well, you know, cool. I was like, well, that's interesting because I was like, the DJ's from Detroit as well. He's like, oh, he probably not from Detroit for real. He probably from like the burbs. And I said, I think he's from the city. He's from Detroit proper. And he's like, well, I don't know. I doubt that. And I'm thinking, how can you doubt that? Like, what makes you doubt that? Like, he's white, you're white. Are you saying it because he's white? Like, were you the only white person in Detroit ever that lived there in the city? I don't know. I'm just, huh? And so I'm stunned because I'm just like, I don't get it. I don't get this. But I'm looking forward and I'm just praying. He goes, so, well, I'm going to go get a drink and, hey, it's been nice talking to you. So I was like, oh, cool. I'm off the hook. I'm off the hook. Good. You get it. So you're done. You're done. So, okay, cool. So I, start listening to the music. Life is going well. Like, I'm just enjoying it. At this point, I stand up because he's giving me life on the wheels. Like, he's playing, and I'm like, oh, this is my shit. So I'm grooving by myself, standing in a corner next to the DJ booth, and about 35 minutes go by. A couple people have come and stood next to me, but then have moved, and then the space opens up again. You know that. Like, I know anybody who goes to bars, goes to clubs, and people hover around you, like, they want to talk to you, but they won't, and they're hoping that you'll give them some kind of sign that you're interested, and I never get the sign. I'm well versed in this. Like, I'm just not going to do it. Celibate for 4 years, and not intending at all to get connected with a guy, just not interested. So you're not getting a sign. And so anyway, 35 minutes, 40 minutes go by, and here he comes. So this time, he says, so you don't have a drink, I noticed. It's like, well, I had a Red Bull earlier. He said, you don't drink? I was like, no. Oh, you stopped? It's like, never started. He's like, oh, wow. Okay, wow. And he's like, what about smoke? I was like, no, not that either. He's like, wow, so you don't drink, you don't smoke. What about weed? I was like, that's smoking. So no. He's like, wow. He's like, how old are you? Like, what, 32, 35? I'm like, like 47. He's like, no way, you're not. I was like, yep. Yeah, that's how old I am. He's like, wow, there's no way you got to be. He goes, that's probably why you look so good, because you don't drink and you don't smoke. But what he said next is the reason why I had to do this podcast. It's because he says next, he's like, well, since you don't drink and you don't smoke, what can you possibly do for entertainment? And my eyes were like, blink, 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 blink. I'm sorry. What do you mean? What could I possibly do for entertainment? I was like, tons of things. He's like, well, name it. I was like, I'm not going to name anything. Like, who I am and what I do is purely my business. It's like, it has nothing to do with you. Like, I don't drink and I don't smoke, but I am enjoying myself right now. I said, as a matter of fact, I was having an awesome time until you came and stood right by me. He's like, oh, wow. So it's like that? I'm like, yeah, it kind of is. He's like, well, I'm just saying, you don't smoke, you don't drink. How can you possibly be having a good time here? I just couldn't. I literally could not understand it. I could not understand it. I was sitting there, I was like, I was having an awesome time. The music moves me, and I'm done. And he's like, well, I'm just saying, if you need to change that up, because I don't know of anybody who's gonna be into that. Like, oh my God, is he kidding me? So I got up. I was done. Only reason why I even went that far, because anybody who knows me, I on the norm would not have even given that much. But I was baited, because I thought, anybody this stupid, I can't stop you. I want to know more. I'm intrigued, because you are dumb, and I want to know how dumb. So then I realized, you're so dumb, you need to stop talking to me, because you're just dumb. And you would think that was the end. I know you want to believe that that's the end, but have we met? We've never met, obviously, if you think that's the end. That's not even close to the end. So I'm done. I walk to the other side of the place, which is, it's not a big place. And I walk to the other side of the bar, and then here I'm standing next to the dumbasses, the two dudes who I stopped talking to. Remember the one a couple months ago where I was like, he sees me online on Scruff and tells